Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Arlie Ingalls, and today is podcast number 2, I guess. This one is in the family silo. If you heard my first podcast, you know that I'm doing 2 different podcast silos. One is family related and one is more related to me. This one is on the family side, and it's going to be an interview that I listened to that Alison Arngrim gave to a gentleman by the name of John Contratti. And John, if I mispronounce your last name, I am so sorry. It was on his show called Up Next. And it was, so I don't know if you've ever heard Alison give an interview, but oh my goodness, she could tell any kind of story that she wanted to, and it would be interesting just to listen to her delivery and her description of it. And this one was no different. Now, I have never met Alison. I've met Melissa Gilbert when she was in Houston performing in The Little House on the Prairie, the musical, but I've not had the good fortune of meeting Alison just yet, but I hope to remedy that here in the near future. So Alison, if you're hearing this, would love to meet with you in one of your guest appearances. So anyway, on this particular interview, she talked about a wide range of things. And, getting back to what I said, she can tell any story and make it interesting. And one of the storylines was at an appearance where she had gotten ill and it required going to the ER, and where that would normally not be that interesting, hearing her tell it, it certainly was. And then moving on from that, she also talked about going to France, and I will say this, support her in this. There is a group based in France on Facebook that has reached out to me and asked for me to contribute to their group from a real family, real Ingalls family perspective, and I have not done that. So my bad. I will absolutely do that, but I have not done that yet. And she said that her experience in France was a very good one, and surprisingly, where in the U.S., the audience for the Little House on the Prairie series is mostly older women. I would agree with that, and kids. In France, it appears to be teenagers, and there's a lot of men. So curious, but yeah, I'm totally glad to see that, and I was aware of that. And she also talked about other aspects of it. And like I have said previously, there's still a lot of interest in the Ingalls family and the Little House on the Prairie series, etc. You see new things coming up all the time, events being held all over the place. One of the things that she talked about was a doll that was created. It's called a Nellie doll by Queen's Treasure. I did go out there and look for it. I found it. It's a nicely done doll, and I love the fact that I've got a Laura doll. Someone gave it to me as a gift, and I'm glad to see now that Nellie has her own doll out there as well. So yeah, that one. And then she talked about a couple of things that, one thing I was not aware of, and that was the separation of the enterprise between Michael Landon and Ed Friendly. And Ed Friendly is the gentleman that created the Little House on the Prairie TV show, or not created, but he's responsible for having it produced. So, and I'm not exactly sure what his role in that was. I do know that he purchased the rights to Laura's enterprise, and then that was what the show was based on. So there was some disagreement there, and there was some separation of property in the commercialization of it, etc. I don't have all the details on that, but I found that interesting, and in time I'll look at that as well and possibly post about that. And then the last thing that she kind of talked about was the possibility of a reboot. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about that. I've seen a lot about it. There was an article that appeared in Entertainment Weekly some time ago about it as well. And here's my thoughts on that. I believe that that's going to have what I call the Wizard of Oz effect. And what I mean by that is the Wizard of Oz was such an iconic movie. The characters that were portrayed by the actors were iconic, and you cannot duplicate that. So if you try to reboot the Wizard of Oz, you're going to compete with the delivery of those original characters and either try to mimic them, which why would you do that? I would rather watch the original. Or you're going to try and reinvent those characters, which again, I'm also not interested in. Well, the Little House on the Prairie series has that same effect. The delivery of the characters by the actors were so iconic. Melissa, Michael, Alison, you can't recreate that. If you try to mimic it, why? people are going to compare you to the originals. And if you try to reinvent it, I don't know that it's going to be accepted that well. Now, that it could be. We haven't done it, so it could be. But here's my suggestion. Rather than reboot it, or another option that has been talked about, is moving later into Laura's life when she's now older and she is an author, and her daughter Rose is also a publisher, and create a storyline around that. But my suggestion would be this. Why not move to another section of the tree? There are Ingalls family members out there in families that are still producing descendants today, including my great-grandfather, which was Laura's cousin. So he lived a very similar life to her. He did not move around as much as Laura did. He had 6 children, one of which was my grandfather. So that's an option as well. I think that should be entertained, and I'm not sure who's going to see this, but hopefully the right people will see it and consider it as an option. So my purpose in doing all of this is, as I said in the first podcast, I wanted to add the voice of the real Ingalls family to the conversation. And that's what I'm doing here today. So I'm adding my voice to that conversation. I don't represent the entire Ingalls family, but I certainly represent my voice, and I am one of them. So hopefully you'll enjoy my assessment of this. I will post more in the coming weeks and months. I did hear one thing about a guest appearance over the weekend. I'm going to do some research, see if I can find out more details on it, where there was some conflict, where some of the cast members showed up to do a guest appearance, and I'm not sure what the conflict was around or why, but I'll get some facts around that and then post about that as well. So again, hopefully you've enjoyed it. You can find this on YouTube along with other videos that I have created. If you want to get the real in-depth, my family perspective, photos, history, etc., the best place to do that is on Instagram, and it's Ingalls on the Prairie, at Ingalls on the Prairie is where you'll find me on Instagram. You should be seeing that down here as well. So thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this. I will post again soon. Thanks.